Hi, welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts. You're catching me on my YouTube channel, True Divine 44. You can also catch me on my Facebook page, True Divine, and The True Divine on Instagram and Twitter. Any likes, shares, subscribes and comments on any of those platforms, it's greatly appreciated, especially the comments. I love reading people's comments, connecting with the people who leave those comments and seeing where you are at in your journey. So it opens up that dialogue, it opens that connection. I've made brilliant friends with the people who have supported me from the start and have lasted until now. I appreciate you all so very, very, very much, more than you know. So this is part of the free content that I put out. Please excuse the croaky voice, don't know what's going on with the throat chakra. I'm working it out, I'm figuring out what I need to speak about. What truths I need to speak about. We're all going through some kind of inner work right now. We all are all the time anyway, but this time is intense. The planets are demanding it, the energies are demanding it. So, you know, we're responding, hopefully, or we're being triggered, or we're rioting, or we're doing something outside of self, when everything right now needs to be centered on the individual journey and inside of self. So taking the energies and combining those with tarot, I bring you a narrative for the day. Today being the 20th of June 2020, and it's for you to be forewarned, forearmed, and have the foresight, or to be able to look back on the day and make sense of the energies that you felt or that you incurred throughout the day. So take what you will, take what resonates here and only here, leave the rest behind. Don't bend a reading to your will, and that's with me and any other reader for that matter. So for the 20th of June 2020, there's this promise, and we've swapped places because yesterday this card came out in the reading, the Two of Cups, but it was in reverse. Now it's in the upright and it's on the bottom of the deck, so it's underpinning the reading, it's giving it the general, and it's the promise here of there being wholeness, there being balance, the divine feminine, divine masculine within, true friendship that you can trust, true a lover's relationship that you can trust, that you feel like your soulmates. This is the soulmate card. And so there's the promise here that there is that out there for each and every one of us, whether that's the balance within self and falling in love with self, which of course I encourage all of you to do, or finding your soulmate, finding somebody who you can trust implicitly and who makes you whole. So there's this promise here from the universe that with all of these ups and downs, with all of these so-called negative energies that the headlines are bombarding us with, so that we're manipulated into thinking that's the most prominent energy when it's not. We only need to look at nature to see the rebalance that's happening there. We only need to look at nature to see the abundance that's happening there, because we've stepped away a little bit, given it space and time to recover, recalibrate and rebalance. And that's what we need to be giving ourselves. Yes, keep informed. Yes, be proactive, but in a more strategic way. So we have this promise of there's positivity everywhere we look, if we look for it. There's a promise of a positive energy everywhere we look, if everywhere we are, if we look for it, if that makes sense. So we've swapped places because yesterday the first card, which is the Major Arcana, the Devil card, number 15, was on the bottom of the deck yesterday. So these two cards have swapped places. So it's to look beyond these chains that are within this Devil card, the chains that bind you to addictions, to bad relationships, narcissistic relationships, to behaviors that are excessive and extreme, so much so that the body cries out for them, that there's that animalistic want for them, that you'll do things that you would never usually contemplate to get a hold of whatever it is that your body shouts out to you that you need, because there's been an addiction there, there's something that you have bound yourself to. And so it's the invitation today is to look past these things and to see the promises that the universe has for us all. It has this true connection, it has this true friendship, it has this true lover this true soulmate. It has this true love within self, this divine balance within self. But we have to look beyond these things, these chains that we have built for ourselves. Even if part of the links of these chains that bind us to this devil card, to this devil energy, have come from a place of where we were abused, where we were mistreated. It's important that we don't live in victimhood, because for the longest time, if we live in victimhood, then we just bolster these chains, we just strengthen them up, we just add more links to them. So it's important to not fall victim to the very prominent persuasion that we have going on in this reality right now. It's good to be a victim, it pays off to be a victim. We need to look beyond the 3D, beyond these animalistic desires, either to be looked after, because we're playing the victim card, or whether it's this drive that makes us do things that we wouldn't usually want to do to gain something that feeds that addiction, that feeds those chains, that makes us feel whole, but for only 1 second. Whereas this promise on the bottom of the deck, the Two of Cups, this is an eternal bond. This is a soulmate bond. This is an eternal bond with self, an understanding of self, a balance, a beautiful card. So it's to look past whatever we have allowed ourselves through complacency to, one way or the other, to, as harsh as that sounds, to be chained to our animalistic survival space. And yes, it's important to have this space, but it's important to be able to channel it for a time and then let it go again, to not live by it, because it makes us do things, like I said before, that we wouldn't usually do. I'm feeling that there's a lot of families that are dealing with loved ones who have got addictions, and it's come to a crescendo now. It's come to a point of the burden has gotten very high and people have gotten very desperate, and you might have family members within your family circle that are putting real pressure on you to help them feed their addiction, or you're having to put up with the behaviors because they can't do so. And either way, that's very, very, very difficult. And it's for us to not take responsibility for those chains. It's for us to recognize that this is an individual journey, and whether you are at the degree of having a severe addiction that drives you to do things that you wouldn't normally want to do, or whether you're at the degree of, maybe not embracing your animalistic desire quite enough, that get up and go, that for life, that passion, that deep, passionate buzz that you get when you connect with somebody and connect the two animalistic characteristics within each other. It's beautiful, but it shouldn't be a constant. It should be to create beautiful things, beautiful sex magic, to create, to bolster that, not to be a constant to it. Otherwise we get bound to it, we get addicted to it, we get even addicted to sex, and we get addicted to this animalistic type sex, very passionate, very different, very raw. So it's for us to live our individual journey, depending on where we are, on what degree we are within this devil card, to deal with it ourselves. These chains are ours to break, and it's going to keep coming up. This card came up not so long ago with the same message, and the universe is kind. It gives us chance after chance after chance, but now the planetary alignments are saying, okay, you need to hurry up, because depending on the actions that you take now, yesterday, the day before, and the day before that, and all of the days after this day, it's tick, 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 tock. Now it's time, the things are changing, things are progressing, and we need to be at a higher frequency, at a higher resonance, at a more positive in a more positive state in the individual and in the collective, in order to bring about the reality that we want to see. Because you better believe that there's moving parts above that are working very, very hard to bring in the reality that they want to see, which you can bet your life will be more chains, more control, more addictions, more hooking into our animalistic desires and making us dependent upon them. So the second card being this Eight of Swords. Now the Eight of Swords, but it's in reverse. So it speaks to severe blocks, it speaks to mental blocks, it speaks to finding it very difficult to compartmentalize the things that need to be let go of and see them for what they are, and see that they are imprisoning you with these two cards together. This is a cycle that keeps repeating. Do you want to be in the wrong relationship? Do you want to not be living your truth? Because right now it is a call to arms. When people say they will stand, they will fight for honor, they will fight for change, they will fight for the security of others. Well, now is that time. But we don't do it by, it's not an outside fight. That's been done, that's a tired old thing. That's what the elite do, dropping bombs and fighting to create money, to create division and war. This is a different kind of war. This is a spiritual war. This is deep. And we win by unhooking ourselves from all of the 3D things that have been introduced to us so cleverly, that get us hooked and get us put in this mental cycle, get us blocked. It blocks our creative flow. In this card, very much so, it speaks to the addicted person having very easily blaming people outside of self or things outside of self. Anything outside of self is to blame rather than the individual. And for me, if you're listening to this and this resonates for you, then I do have to do my job properly and have a firm voice and say it is up to you and only you. And ultimately, if you question yourself long enough, if you self-reflect long enough, you will find that, you made these choices. Doesn't matter under what duress you made them, you made these choices. You made these choices to sustain these addictions, these ties, these binds. And you made those choices to get in this mental cycle of feeling blocked, of feeling like a victim to your own chains. So it's a constant loop being fed, and it's for you to break that loop. It's for you to break that circuit, break free of these chains, turn this card the right way up, and at least look at these thoughts, because these are swords, they're thoughts. Look at them clearly. What mental attachments do you have to each link in the chain? Try and think about them, compartmentalize them, and then they're easier to transmute, easier to make sense of, and then be damn sure to jump off this card. This card should be very transient, very quick, not too long, because otherwise it becomes a thought merry-go-round that we get stuck on. Again, this loop, this cycle. So, use this card wisely to figure out where these thought patterns are coming in, where they got in, where the links in these chains that bind you to this more survival-like state, more victim-like state, and make it easier to transmute them. And it is just a day for saying you need to get it done. It needs to be done for you and for the collective, because this is how we lift the lid off these globalist elites that have been in control for far too long, very much surreptitiously sneaking in through the corporations, like through the veins of society. So there's a lot to unpick. We can't do that unless we are whole. We can't do that unless we are truly able to connect to our higher selves, to have that intuition, that forewarning, forearming, foreknowing, those natural abilities that are given to us that are limited through energies like this devil card and all of the things that go with it. So the battle starts here. The battleground is inside, and I've been saying that for a long time, but now it is really tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. You need to get it done, because on the other side of these planetary alignments, as far as I can make out and as far as my knowings, this very much decides our actions now, our individual actions, the work that we put in our inner grounds right now, the weeding that we do in our inner grounds right now really does determine the future that we have, the reality that we'll be living in. I want a reality where we are free to create, we are free to produce things that heal and heal properly and wholly. The Three of Cups is in reverse also, and that's the third card, and that's where you're disconnected. If all of this resonates with you, why are you staying in situations, relationships, addictions that hold you back, that limit you? And I realize when this kind of reading resonates with somebody, it's very hard because they're at a low ebb in their life. And all I can say, it's at that point where I've helped many, many people facilitate themselves, to pick themselves up, to do the inner work. And it's at this point of brokenness that people really do strengthen their character if they choose to do so, if they choose to take the invitation, if they choose to uptake the energies in a different way and transmute them through their bodies in a different way, through their thought patterns in a different way. And it's difficult to do. I'm not saying it's not difficult to do. Once you've done it, you actually will find, a lot of people will say to me that now that I've done it, I find it easier when more links become apparent in these chains, which they will. This has been going on for a long time. We've been building our chains for a long, long time, some for many lifetimes. This is a time that, you know, we need to get down to the nitty-gritty, and no longer is it acceptable to stay in friendships that don't resonate with you, to stay in relationships that don't resonate with you, in business partnerships that don't resonate with you. There's no celebration, there's no bliss, there's no joy here. And there's a lot of people lying to themselves about the position that they're in, lying that they're living in their truths, that they're expressing their truths, that they're being who they choose to be, rather than the labels, limitations and roles that have been put upon them. And pretense won't work. The energy in the universe right now will pick up on that pretense, and it will throw more back at you, you know, of the same thing, of more control, more. So you see how that reflects on the wider stage, in that, you know, it's it is giving consent. They cast a spell out there that is usually so flaming ludicrous, but we have so many people living with their chains that bind them to these limitations, that actually these ridiculous things that these people at the top are throwing into the collective ring are actually, people are actually being fooled by it and reacting to it, and anything but look inside. Yes, you'll distract me with that. Great. Yes, I'll break some shop windows, I'll pull down some statues, I'll hurt a horse, I'll hurt a dog, whatever it is, as long as I don't have to look inside. Thank you, oh dear one, dear corporate. And come on, it's time to take our divinity back, our sovereignty back, and really co-create a reality that is not just awesome, but abundant and blissful and productive, that seeks truth and seeks real healing, that seeks that kind of excitement, rather than waiting for somebody in the collective above to throw their big toy into the collective for you to jump on, to serve this animalistic desire, only to build more chains that get heavier and heavier and heavier for you to get rid of. So it really is a call to arms today. And if you are dealing with somebody who, if this doesn't resonate with you, but you're dealing with somebody in your family that is going through this, I've been there, done it, and I know how tough it is. So I'm not talking from a place of no experience. But when people are at this point in time, the best thing you can do is do you. Because just as much as it's their responsibility to be clear in all of this, and there's a lot to clear, yes, but it's absolutely possible. It's your responsibility to be doing your individual journey, and for you to be an example for people around you like this, to see you doing that, to see you doing the inner work, to see you gaining strength and balance and clarity. But there's something to be said where a lot of people are going to have to let go of family members, maybe today, maybe in the coming week, because of the energies putting so much pressure on people who are weak to addictions and animalistic desires. It'll become more and more apparent. They'll become more powerless, more reckless with their decision making. And as hard as it might be to let go of a family member in that moment, a lot of the time it's the very thing that saves their life, because we don't mean to do it, but we very easily become enablers. We very easily, want to buy food so that, and ultimately we think we're helping, but it just means they've got more money for whatever they're addicted to. It's a very different mindset. So if you haven't ever been addicted to something, if you haven't ever had to serve something outside of self that is an addiction, it's very hard to get into that mindset and understand, and therefore it's very hard to pull back. But the guidelines are very clear energetically right now. This has to be an individual journey, and people either have to sink or swim. People have to do the inner work for themselves, and yes, have compassion and love along the way and understanding, but it's the inner work for the individual that is the first strategy to create in the reality that we would want to live in, well, most of us anyway. It's the first strategy, it's the first battle plan, because we cannot, these people above that have been creating such chaos and solutions to the chaos that they started for far too long, are not going to go away easily. And the one thing that they have relied on, that they have put so much money into, billions upon billions, is to get your attention away from the inner you, your inner world, your inner universe, where you are king, where you are queen, where you need to take back your divinity and your control over your energy flow, over the way your organs are working, over the way your chakras are spinning, over the colours that they are. It's for you to have that authority, and that is what feeds into the collective stage of I do not consent. I don't consent to this excessive control. I don't consent to these laws that you aren't abiding but you expect me to abide to. I don't consent to abuses of children being swept under the carpet depending on whose name is attached to it. I don't consent to living a lie, so I don't consent to being lied to. So you see where it's very important that we align ourselves in our truth, in the relationships that bring us truth, that bring us wholeness, that bring us this balance, in order to co-create this reality that will be safer for our children to live in, rather than more detrimental than these times already are. It's time to take back that control. It's time to be divine. It's time to be sovereign. You are king. You are queen. Each and every one of us is capable of doing so. Take your throne in your inner grounds. Take your throne and start controlling those animalistic desires, those things that will hold you back, those things that will drive you to do things that you normally wouldn't want to do and that don't actually make you feel good doing. Whether that's lying to self, whether that's addicted to a substance, sex, whatever it might be, it's time to let go. It's more important than I can even express in words right now. It's just as important right now as if somebody was on the battlefield ready to give you the strategy to go in there and to follow that strategy, otherwise you'll die. You know, there's a seriousness to this energy now. There's a come on, come on, come on, come on. And for people who aren't ready to do it, then you need to move away from them. You need to have your space. You just do you do your individual journey. And hopefully for them, I know it's hard when we have loved ones. It's very difficult. But just because of the label that somebody comes into the family with, that does not mean that it's your responsibility to fix them, that it's your responsibility to do the work. Because it doesn't work like that. It would last 5 minutes and then poof, be gone again. People have to do the work for themselves. So a bit of a come on reading today, I know. So sorry, not sorry, because it is what it is. The energies are calling for this, and it is the least we can do, because thankfully not many of us listening today, or whenever you listen to this video, can yes, we've been through abuses, yes, we've been through hardships, but we cannot in our numbers, we cannot understand the kind of abuses that these children are going under. So take it as a call to arms for that you doing this inner work is the first part of the strategy, the first part of the strategic plan. Then we can act, because we'll be coming in a place of balance, in a place of wholeness, in a place of harmony. Not ulterior motive, not lies, this is truth, this is real truth in self and in friendships and in lovers and all kinds of relationships. So that is the reading. I'm going to shut up now because I could rant on for ages with this. You know, do the work, and if it's for you to step away, do that work. As hard as it might be, you're actually giving your loved ones a better chance of survival, a better chance of really learning from their mistakes if you stop enabling it. Even if you just stop enabling it energetically, again, not giving that consent for that kind of energy to drag you down or hold you back. So much love, be balanced and whole as always. If you would like a private reading with me, any energy work, spiritual coaching, just get in touch with the details below this video. And until next time, much love, be balanced, be whole as always. I love you. Mwah.